Is that better? Okay, good. I don't know.
Good afternoon, everybody. Here we are. It's Tuesday, May 12th, and another segment of Community Together, and I'm very excited about this program. We had some seniors on last week, and to follow up from the seniors, I thought it was a perfect opportunity to bring two people with us today to talk about the next step for seniors, and that's college. And here we go. And I'd love to introduce Lou Valdez with Valdez and Polanski Wealth Management Group with the Wells Fargo Bank. And so we love having you as a resident of the Conejo Valley for 50 years. You've seen Conejo Valley go through a lot. And the hair, you've grown quite the hairdo. Oh, wait, I need Lou. Oh, I lost him. Oh, no. There we are. You've grown quite the hairdo.
Thank you, Lydia.
Your quarantine hair you're breaking up on us, Louie. We are live. You're breaking up on us. So let's check our internet connection. Let's see if that works. I'm sorry, everybody. We did. Louie, let's try again. Your hairdo from... Can we hear you now? He's frozen.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, Lydia, but yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm enjoying it while I have it.
I think you need to get one of those trimmers. It's working quite well for you, this this quarantine hair.
I think those are called Flobies, right? The Flobie.
Right.
Yeah. And also, I'm very pleased to have Nichole Ipach with us. And she's the Vice President for University Advancement with the California State University Channel Islands. And obviously, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty going in. And we're just so pleased that you're with us. And, you know, you've been also very active in nonprofit organizations, as Louie has. So we're going to have a great conversation today. So Louie, let's start off with kind of financially, parents are maybe concerned about whether they can afford having their kids go to school given what's going on at the economy. And I just wanted to see what are clients asking you about how they can plan for the expenses of college? Louie? Oh, he's frozen. Well, let's try to get him back on. We are a live show, as you can see. We will pivot. Nichole, why don't we just kind of talk about what are the plans of kids being able to come back to school and enter in as a freshman, and what is Channel Islands or now all the California state schools have planned? Thank you for being with us.
Oh, sure. No, thank you for having me. So I'll preface this by saying that I can tell you a little bit about what's going on in the California State University system and what's going on our campus. And so for those who might not be aware, there are 23 campuses in the California State University system. That includes Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and Cal Poly Pomona. So we make up what we call the CSU. And we just this morning there was an announcement made by our system chancellor letting the Board of Trustees know that the plan for the CSU is that we will be doing primarily virtual instruction in the fall with limited in-person instruction exceptions. And even with that, you know, that guidance is very broad. And so even in that context, I'll tell you that the way that each campus executes that, each of the 23 is going to be different from the next. It will depend on local circumstances. It will depend on the academic curriculum that we have to offer, the different kinds of programs. So we just heard that this morning, and now all of the campuses are trying to work through the detail of what that will actually look like. But we pretty much know that's going to be the case in the CSU. Now, the University of California system, the UC and the community colleges, those are different systems. And so they might have different approaches. And I haven't heard about what their approach is going to be. And of course, private universities might have a totally different approach. And a university in Texas is likely going to be different than here in California. And then I know Arizona State, I think, one of the universities in Arizona is opening up, and they're going to do all face-to-face. So each university is different, but really what's driving the decisions are the local, state, and national health guidance that we're receiving, because we're all putting the safety of our students first.
And probably staff and professors are part of that.
Course. And the campus community. Yeah, absolutely.
So I can imagine if you're a parent or if you're a senior and you just are hearing for the first time that you're not going to be able to be on campus, that's going to be, obviously it's a huge disappointment, because dorm living and football experience.
Yeah, it's a huge disappointment for everybody. So I think I was talking with you before this a little bit and mentioned that our faculty, our staff, everybody who works at our university and in the CSU, this was a disappointment to everybody, right? I mean, we all wanted the students to be here. That's why we work here. Our mission is about education and educating students, and that's why we all choose to be here. And not having the students on campus is a huge disappointment to us all, but especially the students. Not to mention the seniors who are the class of 2020 right now in the K through 12s, who are missing out on their senior year, and now they don't get to have that same fall experience potentially at a university that other classes have been able to enjoy. So yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking for all of us, but we've only gotten through the fall, right? So the spring, we're trying to remain optimistic, and we're trying to think of the spring as potentially the time when we could start to transition back into some kind of face-to-face instruction and start to transition back into some kind of a semblance of normal university life.
Yeah, I mean, obviously health first, and I think, the colleges are leading with health first, and that's probably the most important thing, and it might be disappointing, but all the kids are in it together, and I think that's what I heard last week from these students, like they're strong and they'll come out of this and they're, they'll have different skills, right?
Yeah, and you know what? It is amazing. I mean, I think we experience this with every kind of emergency, the Thomas fires, the borderline shootings, all the things that our local region has gone through. You always see the resiliency and the heroism that comes out in these times. And I think what's been so amazing to us is to watch how these students, and at our campus, many of them are first generation, low income, they're coming from underrepresented communities, they're children of farm workers, and they are moving forward and overcoming this and super resilient. And so, our job is we've got to assemble the support systems and the structures that they need now to thrive in this environment, because we cannot let them get derailed from their academic aspirations. It's imperative, but there is a lot of amazing stuff that's coming out of it.
Yeah. Louis, can you hear us now? Can we hear you? Louis? Uh-oh, we still know Louis?
I can. I'm sorry, Lydia. Thank you.
Good. Good. You're back.
Okay.
We're talking about, Nichole mentioned how none of the kids will be on campus. Can you hear me? We're having technical problems. Oh, okay. One of the things we wanted to talk about was what happens to the parents' portfolio in potentially how can they afford school compared to what they originally were thinking in January. What are your clients saying? What kind of advice are you giving your clients to be able to afford college?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for hosting this series. And I had a chance to listen to the seniors that you had on last week, Lydia, and I got to say they were inspirational, and how resilient, mature. It was. You could tell they were very well grounded. So I want to commend you for bringing them on and let them have an opportunity to share their story. So to your question, given what's gone on here the last few months, we have been having conversations with clients who are prepared to send their either back to school to finish, or of course starting out in the fall, which is predominantly what we're talking about now. So what we're really encouraging those clients to think about are, if their educational funds, and let's just say 529 plans, which your viewers are probably familiar with as a central investment to fund those, if those 529 plans have come down, it's probably a good idea to potentially let those sit and build and try to find some alternative sources of funding, if that's at all possible, because those will come back up in value given some time. So one of the things that you should be looking at is the investment allocation of those plans. Most of those plans are offered through what's called an age-based allocation. And simply stated, as the student gets closer and closer to college age, the investment mix is conservative to prevent loss. So I would say to clients, make sure that your allocation on your 529 plans is appropriate given a short amount of time period. And if for whatever reason it's not, Lydia, I would say to rebalance the portfolios to an age-based mix. So that's what I would say to people that are looking to fund their college very soon.
And are there other methods, if their 529 has shrunk a lot and they want that to regrow, is there other methods that they can use, that they can dive into, or that they could potentially use to watch that regrow potentially?
Good question. And yes, there are. So we can encourage clients to look at things such as home equity lines of credit. It's a good idea to have those established, regardless if you want to utilize those or not. It's good to have those like an umbrella in your trunk, just in case. So I would encourage clients to do that. Also, standby letters of credit, or what we call securities-backed lines of credit. All major firms offer those lending products now. They're inexpensive. The interest costs are very low, and they're another source of liquidity that people can use if they don't want to touch their 529 plan. And I would also say, even if as a parent you don't want your kids to have student loans, I would encourage them to get at least some type of loan and put it in the child's name, because that's going to give the child a need to establish credit. So when they do graduate, they'll have some credit score associated with it. And of course, if they could pay that back during their college years or shortly thereafter, and that's going to get them on a good road to responsibility, to establishing credit, which, as you know, in your line of work, is extremely important with big purchases.
Yeah. I mean, really good advice, really good information. And, there's hopefully our viewers are, if not, they need to reach out to you, but to put a plan together and have some guidance. And it's a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money that if they have a first-time student or a second-time student going out, how to manage that. And, do they wait with their 529s and hope that it rebuilds, or do they use their line of equity, or Nichole, I'm going to come back to you. What's happening to scholarships? What's happening to student aid? What's happening to your budget, knowing are some students maybe not going to come to school, like on a financial term? How are the colleges going to handle all of the extra expenses that might come up with this?
All good questions, and many of them we still don't have the answer to. But there's a lot happening with financial aid. So the federal government released CARES funding to various campuses throughout the country, and our campus and the CSU received some CARES Act funding. We are distributing $4.2 million in direct support to our students, and we're prioritizing that support with the students who need it most. So if they have a family contribution that is $4,000 or less, then we're giving them a larger chunk of support. We're still moving forward on the philanthropic side, which is what I oversee, of trying to secure scholarships and support for our students that could take that CARES Act funding even further. But what we're really wondering about is what is the impact of the stock market going to be on our endowments? Because many of our scholarships are endowed, and we use the interest earned off of those endowments to provide the scholarship support to students. So we're thinking about that now, and our foundation board is taking a look at what that impact is, and they're going to make a decision about what they want to do with distribution for 2021. But we do hope that we can reach out to our supporters, those who have been generous in supporting our students, and ask them for support that our students might need. But of course, we want to be very sensitive because everybody's finding themselves in different economic situations right now. So we're trying to navigate all of those circumstances to really understand how we can do that best. And, in terms of the budget, again, we're a state university, and you may have read the governor made an announcement about the $50+ billion shortfall that the state will assume in this year, and that the economic shortfall to the state will probably last through 2024. The governor's May revise comes out tomorrow. And so that will give us the first piece of information that we can begin to use in the CSU to try and understand what that impact could be to the CSU, and then our campus in particular and other campuses. But we know the biggest hit we've taken has really been with our auxiliary services. So the dining, the parking, all those things that we have state mandates that say, hey, listen, state dollars can't support these things. You have to generate your own money to support them. So our dining services they act like a small business. And Lou and his team have been amazing because they've been, ordering lunches from them and trying to support them. But it's a way that we generate revenue to support the campus because really only about 46% of our total budget comes from the state of California, and then we duct tape and Band-Aid the rest together from other sources. And of course, fees and tuition that students pay is a part of that. And we really don't know what enrollment's going to look like, because students, they're uncertain. They don't really know, right? I mean, that's part of the reason we're having this conversation. Their parents don't really know. And so we have many students who have said, yes, I want to come to Cal State Channel Islands, but we don't. When the dust settles, right, when people really have a sense of what their decision is going to be, we don't know how that's going to impact what our enrollment numbers look like for the fall. But across the board, I think, we are expecting that enrollment will be down a little bit. And so we're modeling lots of different scenarios. In the CSU, the Board of Trustees, we do not intend on, we're very resistant against raising fees and tuition for students at this time. So the board is like, we don't have plans to do that. We don't want to do that. We have to find a different way to balance the budget. But that's the big question. How are we going to do that? And we know that the impact will be stiff and hard. That's what we're expecting, but we just don't know how we're going to get there yet. So yeah, sorry. I feel like I'm just raining bad news on everybody, but it's kind of where we're at. Yeah.
It's the reality, and it's really what our viewers, and I mean, I think we have you both on because there's a lot of questions around this, and I think you guys are bringing the reality to it, and I mean, it's not bad news, it's reality. We're in a pandemic when we are in a reality situation, and this will help parents potentially plan. And I think that's the most important thing, is that parents, when they know what the big picture is, then they can plan their individuals, and they can use Louie's ideas and services to help them plan. Louie, what about students? What can they learn from this, as far as their they're still going to go forward with school, their parents are going to help them, home equity line 529 loans, the combination. What can the students take away from this? How can they, it's bad news, but what can they do what can they do to strengthen their financial gains through all of this, or knowledge, I should say? Louie, can you hear me? Louie's frozen.
No.
Oh, that's too bad. Oh.
Started. Call that as parents. Lydia, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. And I've gotten a couple texts. Is that your real hair? Is that your real hair?
Okay. So, yeah, there we go. So some of the things that I think we could share with your audience is the idea that this is a good time to allow students to really set the financial foundations for the future. In fact, we actually have one client that they actually take the 529 plan and they actually call and request for the withdrawals. They actually look at the statement. They actually have an active process in reviewing things. And it really does. I commend this one client for taking the time to teach her daughter, what that looks like, and following up all the things that we do as adults. So I think it's a huge opportunity that more of us could do. But I also think that it's a good time to, use this opportunity to tell your students, your kids, be reasonable and say, look, here's how time has shown us to react in periods of financial distress. Don't behave short-sightedly. Investments are designed to be longer term in nature. And in life, we have to make adjustments and changes. And maybe that does mean, staying close to home for a semester or a year, deferring. Perhaps it means doing a gap year in a formal program. Perhaps it means, going to a Cal State Channel Islands because it makes sense if we're going to do something online versus paying out of state tuition and not getting the full college experience, which are things that Nichole highlighted earlier. So, I don't have to tell you, your 3 students on last week, they get it and they can take tough news. They already have. So I think as parents, we just need to acknowledge them that, they have a huge part of this because quite frankly, it's their future.
I mean, I think it's brilliant because I think it's a big part of the college experience and paying out of state college tuition and for that experience that isn't there, but that doesn't mean that their education, and it doesn't mean that any of that should be put on hold. And, staying close to home and being more involved in the finances, being more involved is, maybe not what their experience is, but it's a new kind of experience, right? And these kids are resilient if we allow them to be resilient. And, you guys are obviously models and trying to help your clients and your students navigate, and your professors navigate through this. we all have to figure out how we're going to navigate through this. And I think you mentioned it, Nichole, where I don't know if it was we were on air or not, like after 2008, how many students really want that college education?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We saw after 2008, when the economy started to make an attempt to recover, that we couldn't produce enough graduates to satisfy the industry needs. So the value of having a 4-year undergraduate degree, we're still certain that that value is there, irregardless of the economy being in a tough spot. The employers are still hiring. I mean, part of what I do at the university is I oversee our career services and alumni development programming, and we still have employers who are looking for graduates and entry-level employees. And so there are still some jobs out there, but as the economy begins to rebound, there will be a need for people who have 4-year degrees. Before this all happened, often our president would cite the Public Policy Institute of California that said by the year 2025, we would be 1 million baccalaureate degrees short of what the industry in California needed to thrive. So, that need is still there in this state, and the value of whatever degree somebody gets is certainly still intact, we think.
No, I think you're right. Louis, are you seeing, what is the economic indicators as far as like employment for these? Do you break it down by college kids being able to be employed after college? Is there anything that you've seen on that? Or Nichole, can you talk to that? Like, how many are coming out of the colleges right now and are being able to get employment with that 4-year education, even in the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any specific data on that. We're still collecting it. Our commencement ceremony, our students aren't done until May 23rd, and we're having a virtual commencement celebration for them. And then we're still going to do the in-person, but we're postponing it until we're able to do that. But we're curious ourselves, right? So we don't have any specific data on that. We know, I mean, no illusions. There are people who are still hiring, but certainly it's going to be harder for our graduates to get a job, and not just a job, but a career path, opportunity, job. And so we don't have any illusions about that. But we're trying as much as we can to think through how we can support our graduates. We do have the career services that's operating virtually, and we are making every effort to connect employers to our students and our graduates.
No, I think it's terrific. I think you guys have been, wonderful. Louis, is there anything in closing that we want to share, that you want to share, that clients are asking you? I am getting a couple texts. You didn't hear me. Is that your real hair? Do you need to go to the hair salon? Do you want to show us anything? The viewers are wondering, is that your real hair? Is there anything you want to is there anything you want to share in closing, to any questions that clients are asking you, or you want to end with as far as in closing?
So I would say, after doing this for a long time, clients really want to know at the end of the day, are they going to be okay? And I think our job as financial advisors is really to reassure them, be honest with them, reassure them that they are going to be okay. Talked about what, like 2008, 2009, we made it through by working together. And so I think at the end of the day, that type of a role in the relationship is really what is needed. And time has shown that if you don't make sure that investing in securities, real estate, you shouldn't bet against America. America always will find a way to win. We work our problems. And, free markets and capitalism always prevails. It's not perfect, but I always say, don't let perfect get in the way of good.
I love that. I agree with that. Very optimistic. We are, and I'll even go back to, we are Conejo Valley strong, and we have been through a lot, and we will rebound, and we will come out of this, and there'll be new careers and new industries that come out of this, and because of it. And it's hopefully just a short-term hiccup, but I agree with you 100%. Stay strong, stay positive. You know, it doesn't help to go on the other side of that. So thank you, Louie, so much. And thank you for bringing Nichole on. Nichole, is there anything you want to close with? I know, you know, some not so great news today, but
I feel bad about that. No, yeah, I do. All I'll say is that if there's anybody watching who is interested in having their student come to Cal State Channel Islands in the fall, it's not too late. We're handling admissions on a case-by-case basis. So the system hasn't reopened admissions. But if you want to come here, if your student wants to come here, there's still an opportunity. And so, you know, I'm happy to provide the admissions office contact information, and you can give them a call. At our campus, it's about $6,800 a year, fees and tuition, to come to Cal State Channel Islands. So it's, you know, it's not totally inexpensive for some, but it's not, you know, the astronomical price tags that you might read about in higher education. We are a little bit more affordable on the scale of higher ed, and the quality of what we have to offer is really exceptional. The faculty are amazing, and they come from all over: Harvard, Stanford, Yale. They're hailing from all of those places to come and teach our students. So if you want to come, there's still an opportunity, and we'd love to have you.
And I mean, they can live at home, and how beautiful is that they can drive back and forth. And again, it's right in our backyard, and it's a beautiful campus. I've had the opportunity to tour it. It's beautiful, and
it's awesome. And you know, if for any reason I can be helpful to anybody who's watching who is having trouble navigating getting a hold of somebody at the university, I'm always happy to help with that. So feel free to pass out my contact information. I'm always happy to help your students navigate that, because universities are a little bit like the mystery house. Each one's different, and we all have different doors to enter in, and it gets confusing. So I'm super happy to help anybody who's looking for that.
I love it. Well, again, I mean, no news is not always good news. At least there's some news, and now there's planning. And so that was super helpful and timely that, you know, the news came out today. And now at least parents can plan with that news for 23 campuses. So that's a lot of campuses across California. So super helpful. Mm-hmm. Louie, thank you so much for everything you do in the community, as active as you are in the community, and reaching out to us to bring Nichole in and offer this information. I love working with you and collaborating with you, and you know, I know we'll do more together, and you're super helpful, and thank you for being with us. Thank you both for being with us. As we say, stay safe and enjoy your Tuesday.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lydia.